Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Rotimi Eitayo, and I'm excited to be here today to host another edition of your favorite education show. And of course, like we always say, please do let us know as you join us, as you connect with us. Please do let us know where you're connecting from. Please do let us know if you have questions. Please do not hesitate to ask your questions. And of course, joining the conversation, let us feel your pulse. Let us understand what you know about what we're talking about. Let us rub minds together because we plan to learn together, share together, and grow together. We're streaming from Lagos, Nigeria to West Africa, and the entire world. And we are always excited because for us at the Good Morning Education Show, we always say this is always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. And definitely, we're always connected and joined by and with strong voices within education. These are people who are exceptional people, strong voices in education itself. And they are always joining us on the show to rub minds together, to give their perspective to the conversation of the hour. And trust me, it's always a fantastic time. It's always a fantastic experience. And today promises to be also a great one as well. So we're going to go straight to the matter of the day. We're talking about lessons from change today, and I'll just give you a heads up. We've been kind of having a series of leverage on some topics, especially around the teaching profession, teachers as well, and we are also making sure that one way or the other we're able to tackle conversations that will help promote the industry, promote the profession, promote careers within the profession, and promote the individual as well. And I believe that you're going to enjoy today's session, and do not go away. We will be right back after this short break, and then we'll go straight to the conversation of the day. We're talking about lessons for change, remember, and it's going to be a great time. If you know someone that should be joining us, please talk to them, connect with them, tell them this is the time they need to connect with us, and they can easily get to be a part of this experience. It's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to be on the show. It's a great time to learn. So let us join ourselves together, and we'll learn from there. So we'll be right back after this break. And we're right back. My name is Rotimi Etai once again, and a very good morning to you all. And our ambassador from the United Arab Emirates, Ethiop, is online. Ethiop, you need to get to connect with us today. What's happening, Ethiop? You want to come on the show? Do let us know. And of course, it will be a great opportunity to enjoy conversations together as we learn and share together. All right. Um, so we said earlier that we're going to be talking about lessons from change. Change means different things to different people. And absolutely, change sometimes comes with its own reality, comes with its own dynamics, come with its own challenges, come with its own positivity and possibilities. And most of the time, what always happens is that we hear people often say that people don't like change. People don't like change. People don't want to change. But from my own experience, I've come to realize that it's not altogether a true statement that people don't like to be changed. I think that from my reality and from things I've come to see people, participate and do, a lot of people actually don't want to be changed in spite of change. So what happens is that we don't mind if change happens as long as I don't change. And that's why a lot of times social causes, so many interventions, so many initiatives sometimes suffer a lot because who are trying to champion change do not want to feel change. They don't mind change to happen as long as they themselves don't change. And so our goal today is to begin to look at it. Are there lessons to learn as a sector, as professionals within the sector, as experts within the sector, um, about the different changes taking place? Right now, all schools are advised to go back to resume, and now we're having, a new normal, as people will say. We're having a lot of advocacy and activism out there in the society, especially in Nigeria and Africa. And these things actually are accompanied with change. And change also has its own brothers and sisters, as the case may be. And so we need to talk about that. And the truth about it would be wrong for us to spectate or participate without gleaning from the lessons that change brings to us. And so let me welcome my colleague Titi in the building. Titi, good morning. How are you, Titi?
Good morning, Rotimi. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Education Show.
Good morning, Titi's cousin, KK. KK.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, KK. Good morning. How you doing? Looking nice. Looking very nice.
As well. All right. Great to have you. So Titi, we're having a conversation on the
Morning
introduction.
to everyone.
Okay.
Hello?
KK's internet is back.
Yes.
This is well. That's what I will say. So, like we're saying, we're talking about lessons from change. And in the introductory statement, I was trying to bring to everyone's consciousness and awareness that change happens, change is constant. However, most people try to put in the statement that people don't like change, people don't want change. We sometimes hear it to the point people say, oh, in certain areas, in certain aspect of society, in certain perspective of whatever, a lot of people don't want to change. But and I was sharing from my own experience and from what I've seen is that it's not that people are totally against change, but people don't mind if change can occur without them being changed. So we want change, but a lot of times people just want change to happen without they themselves, uh, change. So I would like us to start from that, right? What does change mean to you, Titi? What does change mean to you, KK? And the goal is to be able to get our educators and our professional colleagues out there to realize that change is not just what we should focus on, but the lessons that accompanies change. If we don't learn from change, if we don't glean from the lessons from change, then change in itself is not so beneficial at all. So let's start with that and then we'll continue the conversation. So Titi, um, hello Titi.
Anytime I'm here, anytime I think of change, I always think of change as something positive. Change can be positive or negative, but for me, I always try to look at change as, like a positive movement. You're doing something better. You're learning better. So when I look at change in the education space, I look at it where there's, we are moving on in terms of the skills that we need to build this nation. I look at change as, teachers getting, better pay. I look at change as we are focused more on the right things in the education space rather than the paparazzi of it all. So yes, we are focused on what's really important rather than all the anything. So when I look at change in the education space, I look at it that more children in the public sector are actually getting better education. When I look at change, I look at change as, there's more funding in the sector. When I look at change, I look at it that the university system is actually helping the graduates prepare for real life and to actually add value. So when I look at change, just a lot of is positive, changing what I feel can be improved on. That's really how I look at change.
Fantastic. I like the way you were able to dissect it, and then you were taking it step by step, chunk by chunk, precept by precept. So let's go over to our lady executive administrator, the one and only one-woman republic in the education sector, and who loves to multitask as she gets to be on the show. So, KK, over to you, the multitasking KK.
For me, right, change is a kind of adaptation. That's how I see change.
Yeah.
I see change as an adaptation. So what are the things that why do I need to change? I need to change because there's something in my environment, there's something that is happening maybe inside me or to somebody that I need to rescue, which is still environment, right? So internally and externally, my response to those stimuli means that I have to change in some way. So if I don't change, then I'm in there's the fear that I might break, right? Because I mean, if I refuse to change, then the things happening externally might force me to get out of extinction, to get out of what's the word, please? Those of you that are very clever, right? So I mean, if I don't want to risk being extinct, I need to change. I need to adapt. So that's how we need to begin to look at change as a means of adaptation, so that we can survive, so that we can thrive, so that we can create environments that even cause other people to thrive. I mean, following from what we talked about yesterday, the gains of collaboration, for us to get into that place where we can actually have meaningful collaborative relationships, it would require some level of adaptation. It would require some level of change, which is why we don't have two separate entities, but we actually have one entity comprising of maybe 2, 3, 4 separate individuals or organizations. So that's the space where I see change. To stay relevant sometimes, to stay in your focus, then you may have to make some changes, both internally and externally, to the way that you run your operations, the way that you run your life, XYZ. So that's how I see change. And change is good. I agree 100% with Titi in that regard. Change is good. I mean, if there's even a bad change, it just means that maybe I wasn't strong enough to withstand the elements that forced me into a bad change. So I need to look into myself and say, what are the things that I even need to do to make myself stronger as an individual or as a business professional? So yes, so for me, change is a form of adaptation, and it's not something that we should do without. We should always, stay fresh, stay innovative, and just keep rising with the wind of change, so to speak.
All right, thank you so much for what you just said. But I would like us to bring social reality into context. We already know what's happening within the country. We know what's happening within our system.
Yeah.
And the most recent one has been the opera and the rising. I don't want to use the word uprising for reasons best known. But you see, how do we learn from, for example, there's the End SARS movement. What are the lessons that we can actually see from that?
So let me jump in. I think looking at the End SARS movement, I mean, it's so pivotal to the way that we as individuals in Nigeria, we as citizens of our country, can move forward in this country as actually equals, right? And when I say equals, I don't mean in terms of monetary. I'm looking at equality in terms of the fact that we all belong to Nigeria. And there's so many different changes that are happening in the world that Nigeria has refused to catch up with. I mean, why do I have to be a certain age to drive a certain car or use a certain phone? What are the definitions regarding who a robber is, who a thief is? How do we identify these things? Who are the people who are meant to be identifying these things or these people? And how are they psychologically? You know, if I feel like I've been robbed in my nation of the fact that I'm somebody who maybe let's look at the gate man, for example, in a regular institution, and somebody is coming in to say that they want to apply or they want to see the MD, and the person looks young, but the way the person dresses is so amazing. Some people ordinarily would just feel, you know, would just fight that person. You know, they just feel like, who do you think you are? You're coming here, you know, they go. You know, the person hasn't done anything to them, but simply because they look at themselves and coming from their own their own following from their experiences, and the things that they have, their perceptions about who that person is and where they should be as a result of either their age or status in life. They don't see anything else about that person's struggles. All they see is this person who seems to have what I don't have and is even flaunting it in my face. And the person is not, which is what is going on with SARS. I mean, how do you determine the people who are? It's just ridiculous when you think about it. And so, yes, social change in this regard means that over and over again, this has been happening. And right now, the officials are so emboldened. They can do it to anybody right now as far as they're concerned. And that needs to change. That entire mindset regarding how people in policing in general deal with constituents in political arenas, deal with the populace, just needs to change. I've worked hard for where I am, very hard, and I continue to work hard. You might not see the way I work hard. You might not approve of it as your own definition of how I work hard, but it is mine. So there needs to be that reform where there's actually a mindset shift regarding what the norms are right now, because they have changed and they have changed drastically, and they're not going to go back to what they were before. Yeah, so for me, social change in that regard means that everybody who is a stakeholder in this sector, plus the youth. So me, for example, they might see my gray hairs and say, this woman don't try. You know what? She can afford an iPhone. But how about somebody else? What if they got it as a gift? You know, so there's just so many facets to this that, but yes, it does need to address. And all of these uproars means that something needs to be done, not just speech. And that's what happens, right? Those are barriers to change. People jumping quickly to provide solutions without thinking through how to actually institute those solutions. You cannot just jump in and give a solution without actually thinking about how you are going to institutionalize it and make it something that doesn't change tomorrow in a sense, but it's something that actually meets the needs that people have not even spoken about, that is causing the social uprising, rising, like Mr. Otili said.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to go straight to put this to Titi. Titi, I want you to hello, Titi, hold on. I would like you to really stress on the fact that as a system and as a sector for educators, what lessons should we learn as educators from this, specific to educators?
That's actually what I wanted to comment on and say, you know, what this just shows me that we need to come together and rise and protest as educators. So, you know, it just shows that the right, you know, how I said, the critical mass against an issue can actually bring the attention of the government, and it doesn't have to be taken to the streets. That's one thing I've realized. You see, social media is a powerful tool, and it always,
True.
you know, hurts me that a lot of teachers are not on it, because with it there's a powerful voice. Before this SARS issue happened, look at the other things that have happened that, you know, was lifted up on social media that the government came back, you know, to do something about. It wasn't all taken to the streets. So what I'm saying is that, how can we as teachers, that's the lesson I'm taking from it, how can we as educators come together and say, you know what, these are two important issues that we want government to look at, and then we begin to, you know, have it trending on social media, so that they take note. You know, what are the things that we really want, and they, you know, take action quickly, because that's what we're realizing. As again, you know, you put aside the bureaucracy and bring this thing to the attention of those that are important. That's really what I take from this. Not just the NSAS, the other things, movement that have started, you know, to take, even look at Black Lives Matter, even before they took to the street, it was trending already on social media. So for me, is how do we, what can we do to come together and say, you know what, for these 1-2 things, or just one thing, let's even start with one thing. How can we bring it to attention? I said, this must stop. I think that for me is, you know, one of the main lessons I take from all this.
I like that. Thank you so much. And I really want us to also accelerate this. That there's something about change, right? That a lot of people don't realize that with change, there's this concept of step on the brakes, because a lot of people race towards change, and change races towards them to the point where they do not know that they can actually watch their speed. Because a lot of times, what we see is people descend into state of being that really does not resonate with the first reason for advocating for any form of change. You start seeing where advocacy creates bitterness, creates toxic attitude, creates negative responses, creates deviant behaviors. And it's because it's so accelerated that the common cause is cloaked as we are doing good, we are pursuing good, we are desiring good, but unknown to them, they are descending at an acceleration into a state of being that is not necessarily worthy of emulation. And this is where we need to, because we need to learn from change, you know, change of appetite, change of a lot of social good and social justice or social injustice. What you see sometimes, people tend to lose, how do I put it now? They tend to lose the core of this. And then you begin to see people becoming different things, you know, people saying things that are not verified, people picking up on surface level and adding to it. And then you start seeing exaggeration, you start seeing misinterpretation, sometimes you start seeing total misrepresentation. I want us to talk about that. How do we get people to ensure that as they race towards change, they also match the brakes? Okay, do you want to share?
Yeah, so it's for me, right? I think that before you start any change movement, you need to have pat down the reasons why you want that change, and then you need to have a process for that change. You need to engage all the stakeholders so that everybody is aware of what that process is, so that you can follow it step by step, and then you do not get derailed. Because truly, Mr. Rotimi, it's so easy to get derailed. So easy. It's so easy to say, you know what, let's start out with one protest today, and then tomorrow is that somebody else said, oh, you know what, let's do another one. Oh, let's do another one. Because it seems like it is gaining popularity. There's a difference between a change gaining popularity and it meeting the need for which it actually was. That's what you mean about putting on the brake. Being in that space where you say, you know what, yes, people are buying into our cause, but is it? Can you all hear me?
It went up for a little while, but yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much, Tiara. So if we look at the education sector, for example, and we say, oh, we need to advocate for change. So what exactly is the change that we want? We must be able to articulate what this change is, and not just articulating what the change is. What will the change look like? What are the quick wins? What are the long-term wins? Who are the people who are going to be the foot soldiers for this change? What are the success factors? How do we know that, okay, we should keep pressing on, or we should pull back and go back to the drawing board? So let's look at, in terms of, I don't want to say teacher pay. So in terms of education quality and the age of the curriculum that we're still using. So if we say we want to look at curriculum and what we will need to do. So first of all, we need to go back to, why do we need to change the curriculum? What is lacking in this curriculum that needs to be modified? Who needs to do the modification? If we modify it, what will it look like? What do we start with? So to ensure that the change that you actually want to see is what will eventually happen, and you're not being derailed by the euphoria that is coming from the protests and the to-dos. I truly believe that everybody should go to the drawing board, actually list out what exactly needs to be done, why it needs to be done, how it needs to be done, what is the progress that we need to make, all of those step-by-step guides, and who is driving each of these critical areas. And then we begin to canvas for a critical mass of people, either via social media, as Titi has just pointed out, or, and not just or, and other channels. That way, when we're dropping it, it's so coherent. We're starting with this, and then next time we move to the next level. That's how people actually realize that these efforts are coordinated. And it's not just people springing up because they know 5,000 people and we can be on the streets and just, it needs to be coherent. We need to have dialogue as well. And that way you can ensure that what exactly we want to change, what exactly we want to happen is what is happening. And then we need to understand that I don't think any change happens overnight, so there must be that space for, let's pull back a little, let's see if they can do something. For example, ASU has been on strike. Is it not 5 months down or 6 months? And in my head, I'm like, what, let me not even go to ASU, because my father was an ASU warlord before he died. But, that's something that we need to look at. This thing that we're doing, is it leading to anything at the end of the day? And then pull back and just have that in the front burner, exactly what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we wish to do it. So that's how I would say putting on the brakes and just making sure that impact happens. That's how I will go about it.
Fantastic. Titi, what are your thoughts?
I like what there needs to be a rallying point. There needs to be clarity of a single purpose. So when you look at the EndSARS movement, it's so clear. They just have one goal. They should disband them. There seems to be that rallying point to say disband them. And if you see what's going on, on social media, there's even now it's broken down to a 5 points agenda, so to speak. So I think that's one of the things that just allows the other rumors and things that can derail to just fall by the wayside. Is that clarity of a single, what I would call a single purpose. And one thing that I would also, just looking at the EndSARS movement, it's also the fact that this is something that a lot of people can feel, a lot of people can relate. If they personally haven't gone through any of these things, they know someone that has gone through it, or there's enough fear built into that. People know, as you read various comments and all that, even me as an employer of labor, when your staff are going back, you tell them to be careful of this, don't argue with this. So it's something that we can feel. So I think if I take that back into education, I'm saying, what's that pain point that majority can feel, so that it's a rallying point that we can use to also push let our voice be heard. Rotimi, back to you. Rhoda in the house.
Hey.
Yeah, hi Rhoda.
Hi Rotimi. Hi KK. Hi Titi. Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. I don't know. Have you been listening to our conversations?
Not today. I mean, I haven't.
Okay. So, Rotimi, are you back?
Okay. I don't think he's back.
Okay, we're talking about lessons from change, and we're saying, what lessons can we, learn from what's happening with the EndSARS movement as it relates to education? What are your thoughts on that?
I was on the EndSARS matter over the weekend. I mean, even before the weekend was over. I think even from 2017, when the first disbandment, I think, happened, I've always been on that path, following the following the what's it called, the progress of that, and just seeing how it has never really changed from going back to what it was, meaning that there was SARS was still in operation. It'd be good to hear from the federal government about what has happened over these years since 2017, why SARS was never really disbanded. So I think I was talking with my husband yesterday, and I was just trying to share some of my thoughts around the whole EndSARS movement, and I think lessons that a lot of us might have ignored. And for me, I looked at 2017 as a year to 2020 as a year, and I counted 4 years. And I said to myself, like, I said to my husband, like, 4 years ago, there was a 14-year-old who is now 18. 4 years ago, there's an 18-year-old who is now 22. And of course, 4 years ago, there's a 22-year-old who is now 26. And this 4-year timeline is like significant changes happened between these groups of people I've mentioned. You can even just pick anybody you know in those groups and say, what has happened to these 3 people in Nigeria between that from that time to now? Even just trying to be very simple about my thoughts in, just as from an experiential point of view, where the 14-year-old was in high school. Now he's going to face his life as an independent person, taking decisions on how he's going to either continue his career path, whether he's going to be specialized in the university or taking up entrepreneurship, or even all of them together. And then the 18-year-old who is now likely about to graduate from university, and he's looking at his life and saying, I'm done now, what next? And then the 22-year-old who is now 26, and he's saying, look, I have a job. I'm not able to take care of myself. I'm able to take care of myself, and then I'm being shadowed by all of these things in my country that really doesn't just make sense to me. I often try to say, look, these people are young people between 18 to 26 today that have significantly in a country that is not good. For us, I mean, we had early days like younger kids, like when we thought Nigeria. I mean, I remember thinking about the year 2000, and I actually desperately thought that Nigeria was going to be great. It was going to be like the streets of Paris or London, or I don't know what I was thinking as a child. But tell you what, as a child, I thought that hope was there. And hope is the currency that we want to spend all the time, isn't it? That's what we advise people to do, because it keeps you working, keeps you kind of committed. And I have that hope. Now, this group of people don't have it. And, if by the time we try to look at it from, critically, you say to yourself, what country do you represent to them? What parenting style do you present? What education system do you present to them? What healthcare system do you present to them? What opportunities do you present to them? They say that talent is given to all, but opportunity not. And then when you look at it quickly, you see that's the reason why they are out. And believe me, we're going to see it getting even deeper, because these are not the kind of group of people. These are people who, I don't know, Titi, I feel like I'm ranting, but forgive me if I am. I don't know if you I mean, when we were kids, I imagine that a lot of us on this panel here had the same experience. When we had adults come into the house, right, we disappeared. It was like automatic control. Like no one, you didn't talk. You just knew it was like a silent code to get out. Not for the kids that we are raising. Like, look, my son is 15, and I'm not blinded. I know, look, these kids have friends who have been directly affected. They have neighbors who have been directly affected. Some of them have been directly affected. I'm talking about 18 to 26-year-olds using the same timeline I'm chronicling. They have siblings, and their parents, and myself, and a little older than myself. And then they have parents who have been affected by this same SARS thing. Like someone said, just because I have an iPhone, or just because I have a video, many videos I've shown to my son between yesterday weekend and today. And that's because I'm also worried that the moment he starts driving his father's car and he goes out, that someone's going to stop him on the road, and I'll be terrified because my son is outside the house. So this group of people are not people you're going to tell things and they're just going to listen, because we've handed a country, a system that doesn't work. They've seen it. They see corruption thrive. They've seen people get away with being bad. They've seen us celebrating immorality, corruption, and celebrating things that are generally wrong, morally, and even wrong institutionally and politically and policy-wise. So I don't blame them. And honestly, there are things to learn from these people because they are committed. This group of people, look, I don't know if we've done the analysis of the groups of people out. They're very well spoken, very well educated. They likely received the better education than we did. So these people have their voices amplified, their choices amplified as well. They are handed a time when social media is a blessing to them. So their voices can become, they can video you right now, and then the whole thing changes. Right? So, I mean, there's so many lessons to learn from them, from even the change of tech opportunities, the change of the opportunity of a parenting system that handed them a voice. So we were the parents, or we are the parents between myself, I'm not too old, guys. Everybody knows when I turned 40 was last year. But we are the group of parents between myself, my age group, and those of us who are in 50s and early 60s, were the people who said to them, your voice is your weapon. We said those things to them, and these kids are out and they're in the front. Look, I don't have perspective as they do. I never experienced SARS. I was telling my husband the other day, like, no police has ever stopped me. And I don't know why. Maybe I have it. I don't know. But we don't have perspective. Let's just be truthful. Myself and the others people older than us, we don't have perspective when it comes to this SARS issue, apart from those who have been directly affected. So I sound like I'm ranting, but the lessons to learn here are many, and that there is there's social media lessons to learn here. That every small move made can be amplified and voices can be heard. And I've been saying, and I'm advocating for educators to continue to amplify the student voice and choice in it, because that's the only way we can change the country. And that's what we're saying. Guess what? A lot of them receive better education than we did. And so some of them, their voices are heard. In their homes, their voices are heard. And that's what we're saying. We're saying lessons from voices that are activated and from a tool that unifies and brings equity to all. And that is social media. Sorry, I was ranting.
It's needed, actually. Thank you so much, Rhoda. Welcome to the show. What would the show be without a Rhoda rant? Rhoda stands for R stands for rant. So it's part of it. Keep on ranting, Rhoda. But then the truth but then I think one of the things that we might need to also understand is we need to see as a sector and as professionals possibility to dare. That's one of the lessons from the change we're seeing in our own social reality. We are not daring enough within education. And we're not necessarily talking about confronting authorities, but we're talking about you being able to say, can we even dare to change things, how things have been done, in place of routine, in place of inclusion, in place of a lot of things. You see, the moment we begin to look at the things that happen on the outside and begin to borrow from the lessons there, I think we need more daring education experts. We need more daring educators. We need more daring consultants. We need more daring stakeholders, because that's really what will push the frontier of the sector itself. And to dare, I don't think you can dare without doing something. To dare requires you to do, right? I think one of the major lessons I've been able to glean from some of these things is the fact that it is time to dare, it is possible to dare, and there are possibilities when we dare. I think Titi wanted to say something.
No. Go on, Rotimi.
Yeah, I'm done with that. I think we can now take it. What I would like us to say. So as we go into full-scale reopening and resumption from primary crèche and everything, it's almost like return to normalcy. What can we use these change lessons to more or less just oppose or relate with the reality that the system of education is full swing back?
I don't know if I can quickly say something on this. I think I'm going to lean more on the side of asking for directions. Like, if you're lost, it's okay to stop and ask for help. It's always been okay to do that. In fact, I think it's quite admirable to ask for help, right? Because sometimes when you're getting, like, if you're going on the road and you can see that there's something that is particularly wrong with that journey, what do you do? If you're driving, what would you do? What you would do is put the car in reverse, right? And take a quick backup. Sometimes we just need to definitely retrace our steps and find our way again. But if we're not, if our only, if we just keep thinking that we must stick with our methods, I think that's when the challenge, that's where the challenge is. I want to, part of the reason, some of the things I can't really say, but I think that we should, like you said, dare, and we should challenge this at school. I have not seen an unconventional schooling system yet. And I'm doing one for myself right now. And I'm going to talk about the story later to come. But the truth is that we need to challenge, we need to be able to take our steps backward and ask for directions and change, really. Because if you don't ask for directions, we cannot change. Sometimes you know that you need to change as a school system. You know that you need to change as an educator yourself. And you're looking at it and saying, how do I implement change? Or how do I even start? Because again, change is not an event. Change is a process. And many times you need to just look again and say, what are steps 1 to 15 that I need to take to get myself to change, to get my school to change? And sometimes, like you said, Ruth, it means to dare and challenge the status quo. Who says that I must comply with something that I know doesn't work? You know, and look at the systems and the policies that are in the place and say, how do I mitigate? For example, when you know you're looking at a particular subject area and you are saying, or even for let's even do a microcosm of our university, you can see there are certain courses that are still in university. You ask yourself, are we serious? Are we really serious? Shouldn't these courses look different? For example, why is it that we don't have medical engineering? Why don't we? You know, and so many things that we need to ask ourselves. So we need to ask for directions. And there are examples. There are countries that are challenging the status quo, what they've always known. So we need to ask for directions. We need to seek guidance. We need to ask, keep asking, get a powerhouse to help you chart a course. I don't know if I'm making sense.
You're making mega sense. I think this kind of episode is not the episode where people are looking for goosebumps on their bodies, quotes, quotable quotes, sounding and rhyming words. I think this is the truth about it. We all need to reflect. And one of the powerful statements or one of the powerful words that you shared this morning is finding our way. And you see, you have to look at those three words: finding, our, and then way, meaning that there must be discovery and exploration together. How do we spend the rest of the weeks of the month of October, probably November and December, to find our way? Not to find a way, not to find their way, but to find our way. The way forward in education in Africa, the way forward in education in Nigeria, the way forward in education in Lagos and across locations where people are listening today. How do we find our way? And to find, we need to discover. To discover, we must move away from discovery to exploring. And it needs us to stand up to do something. And then, of course, once we find our way, we must be able to project that way. Do you understand? That's very critical in nature. Um, I don't know. I think it's one of those times where we all just need to be sincere with ourselves and know that, look, the rubber must hit the road. That's just it. So let's just Titi, can you read comments for us, please?
Okay, we have Ifiok from the UAE saying, I think we have come to a point of no return. People are fed up with the status quo. And as we move for change as educators, we need to believe in the tools for change that we have. We also need to identify clearly what we want the results of change to be. the goals of the actions we take towards change. I completely agree with Ifyok. I think, like we said earlier on, there's a need for clarity in terms of what do we want to achieve. We need to stand up. Ifyok is also saying we need to stand up and activate the activist. Rhoda, I'm sure this does not apply to you. You're already standing up.
I'm standing on Gidigba. I am standing. There's a change. I think what to me and I think we've had a moment when we talked about change the change management process. I think what to me, guys, look, this man here, it's not to blow his trumpet, it's what his trumpet is. There's no need. So you blow it because he has a trumpet. So, but I know we talked a lot about one time we talked about change management process, how it affects business, how it affects our profile, how it affects even the country and things like that. So one of the first steps in a change management process is urgency creation. Because you know that you have to change, you must be quick in your feet. It's like thinking in your head. They say think like a man, and you think like a woman, act like a man. Yeah. But then it says, and then they think on your toes, act on your feet. Because you see, when you're thinking, when you have to think on your toes, you're nervous because you don't have time you can't really stand on your toes for too long. You got to move it, and then you act immediately. Your toes come down to your feet and you move. So that urgency creation is one of the steps I remember telling me about. Urgency creation, or the creation of urgency. And there are things there that happen with the change. So there is a process for change, and there's a way to manage the change. And so those are the things that we need to do. Immediately you've not created that sense of urgency, everybody around you is going to be activated. Because then you will now find yourself building a team. Like we're talking about here, we said yesterday, I shared that quote that I so love. And I said that was saying that a talent wins games, right? But, teamwork wins championships. And every day I try to tell the difference between games. And games can be seen personal. A game can just be for you one-on-one, but a championship never. Teams must come together to activate that. Now you be talented, you win your game. It's your game. But when your talent is not enough to win a championship, and that's the story we are trying to share. And so then when you come just after that sense of urgency, you build your team, then you guys can now go with your vision. You start flying. And then you start looking for quick wins. I think right now, KK is always talking about quick wins. Truly quick wins. What can I quickly turn around? That's it. That's for me where I am. That sense of that. I will never forget when Rotimi told me urgency creation. You just said you got to create it, and it's a management of change, because it's change imminent. Believe me, it is. Not with this group. I don't know how you guys are seeing them. We were saying it. Well, it's all of us. Even all of us are educators. We too were helping while we're teaching. We didn't know what we're doing. We're talking about citizenship, and we're telling those children. We think that the thing just sat down in their minds and it was not to be used for anything. Not when they have a tool called a phone in their hands, and that they can be freelancers. We're telling them you can be whoever you want to be. For years, we've been telling the girls that they're empowered, and that nothing can bring them down. We've talked about women empowerment. That's what we're telling this young girl since 8 to 10 years ago. Did we think the words were just flying out for nothing? Those things were activating things in them. So that's where sorry about my energy this morning, but that's where it is.
Another lesson that I think we can learn as we try to dissect this conversation is that, and it's a principle I've seen that applies across the world, all through the world. Journalists always cover burning buildings. A building that is on fire always makes the news. And what we can relate to that is this: educators, education, the sector are experts. We strong voices. TT must catch fire. Rhoda must catch fire. KK must be on fire. You see, if we don't see it from that level, nobody will cover our story. That's the truth about it. I remember there was someone that was asking me about my journey in education, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes we don't even remember where we started from. Not that we forget, but it's not always something you remember. But I remember that a lot of people were equating the fact that I didn't have gray hair to listen to the counsel that I had. And sometimes it's funny where people judge your expertise or your value by your height, by your complexion, by your tribe, or your age. Someone is looking at you and saying, "What do you have to offer? Did you study education? What do you have to offer? My last born is your age rate, you know. So can you advise a 70-year-old? You're just barely." I don't know where I get my point. And we sometimes need to realize that it is nobody's responsibility but our responsibility to catch fire. And one of the beautiful things I enjoy on this show is that there's some level of ignition that takes place. You know, sometimes you hear TT, she might say it in a soft landing voice, but something just ignites you. When you hear this thing over and over and over again, you hear from like what you said today, Rhoda. It's a wake-up call for us. You know, find your way, find your way. And education in Africa must find its way. Others have done it, and we are seeing the effect and their impact. And there's no rule of thumb that says it's only other people that can try. I think everybody has equal chance to try, especially the principle of globalization can actually be an advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we just take some more comments and then we'll just wrap up. I'm really in a reflective mood. Thank you to Rhoda.
No, I mean, it's been very, very, I don't know how to express it, but I have had many moments of reflection. And I've asked myself, you know, saying things, and I keep asking, I think it's the reason why, you know, when we are asking for, and I'll say it again, and you know, Rotimi, I've been saying is student voice and choice. The reason why I always said it, and it has been my, you know, my mantra, you know, as my no, I wouldn't even call it bird's eye view. You know, how would I express it? For curriculum changes and for inclusion. And, you know, and these are my two core, you know, competencies, you know, and the reason why I've always talked about student voice and choice is it's just exactly what I've been saying, I was hoping to see happen with the people out on the streets today protesting for injustice and brutality, you know, so, because when we talk about students, but that's even just activating their voices in the classroom for them to be heard, for their own way of learning to be heard and to be planned and to be processed, you know. And so I'm very happy about the opportunities that the lessons that we can learn from this movement, from these young people, you know, that have forced the hands of the government to listen and to try to act. And guess what? It wasn't business as usual. It's not business as usual, as you know what was interesting to me? You know, when the police department released their 5 things you should know about the NSAS movement. I don't know if you saw the response from this group of people who have no face and no head. That's a beautiful thing. You know, before you could hold somebody and say, it is this guy that is the leader of this movement. Unfortunately, you can't hold anyone down in this one. They become smarter than us in the way they want to manage their things, right? So now maybe they release that flyer. I'm going to tie this to education. Maybe they release that flyer. What happened in few minutes? They released exactly the same kind of flyer with the same kind of picture, with the same kind of fonting, with the same kind of fonting, text, color, everything. Same thing, their own 5 for 5 as a follow-up to what the police had written, and they had the federal coat of arms as the logo in there. Guys, young people they are skilled. They are skilled. They are more. You know, when you mentioned, Rotimi, sorry again, I'm going on a rant, but when you mentioned how the 70-year-old will say, how can this boy with no gray hair come and talk to me? Let me tell you something about this young man with no gray hair. He understands what project management is. He understands what a work plan is. He's not a talker. He's not going to talk. He's going to document it. He's going to follow A to Z how it's going to work. He's not going to say, he's not the kind of person who you say, go and buy diesel from the petrol station. For him, it's project management. It's not just talk. He's going to take step one, get the funds required to get to buy the diesel. Step two, check that the container to put or whatever to put the diesel is functioning. Step three, check that and find the vehicle that's going to work, that's going to take you, transport you to get the diesel. Step four, get to the station and that's the way he's going to think of it. So that's why he is your project manager, because he's not a talk and talk person. He's going to see it through the process, the system, and try to make sure that after him, somebody else, he keeps a document that tracks how things are done and brings it to the end, and brings every item on his delivery list to the end. He's going to bring it to the finish line. And so these guys are ready. They're ready. And that's the kind of education system that we should hand down to them, that their voices be amplified in the curriculum, that what their choices are there, that they're able to find themselves. You see, education must help a person discover themselves. Which is why I found out non-inclusive schools, because if the child cannot find themselves, when a school is presenting you with a program that's limited, be worried. Because how does your child, especially for basic education, how does your child discover themselves? Where's the artist in him? Where's the musician in him? Where is the philosopher in him? Where is the cinematographer in him? Is he finding a form of expression in the daily lessons, which is possible? Which is why when you're telling the child to solve a math problem, it's okay to tell them to draw it if they wanted to find out the answer. Because then in there, he finds solutions to his photography skills. So that's what we're saying. It's just all tied together. And hopefully these are lessons that we're learning. I don't know if I ever digress, but hopefully I'm able to tie my thoughts together. These are the things that we want to see happen.
Absolutely. It's getting noisy from my end, but I think we've really come to the climax of the conversation. I'm not grooving. We're having lessons from change. I'm actually, so speaking of project management, I'm actually on the project side, and it's getting a bit noisy. But I really want to appreciate you joining the show today. And of course, Titi, always giving us that punchline. And she said it, and I would like to end with that it doesn't always have to be on the streets. Advocacy, change, driving good is something that you can do just from your thoughts to your phone and to your sphere of influence. And if you begin to do this, there's the power of more that will emerge. I said it yesterday. I said, look, the change you are looking for is us that we are looking at. And I know that we will have a great experience, not just in the short term, but in the long term, in the short term, in the long run, and across continually. So really want to thank you. Titi, last words, and then Rhoda last words, and then we'll end the show quickly.
I think my last word is we need to see a change in education. That's my last word. We need change in education. So
my last word, don't stop. Okay.
I want to say
go ahead.
We need to think of the hashtag end this, or we need to come together on a common, I'm telling you, on a common change focus for education.
I agree that I follow up on that. I agree that we need to do that, and we need to amplify our voices. And it's not just like Titi said, not just on the streets, it's everywhere in your sphere of influence, like Rotimi said. And I have been awfully quiet, but I couldn't be quiet when my people were out on the streets. So as much as I could on the tool I could use, I lent my voice to the call and to the cry. And guess what? We in education need to begin to amplify. I don't know how we can galvanize ourselves as teachers and to begin to speak about teacher reforms. I tied everything that happened with the SARS situation with education, looking at police reforms with teacher reforms. The same thing. These are essential service workers. It's kind of like calling for change across the places where we need them to: security, education, and health. These are the three essential things. And we need to amplify that voice. We need to talk about something, end something in education. Let's find that hashtag and let's start it going. Let's get it going.
Thank you so much. So guys, you've heard it all. Make sure you do have a great day. It's a great day on the Good Morning Education Show, and we believe it will be a great day for you as well. So take care. Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.